My name is Ross Moore, as I'm sure you've heard a few times. We've also got the privilege as Water Infrastructure of sponsoring this concurrent session. Looking at the calibre of the speakers this morning, I think we're in for a real treat. How this works, 20 minutes for the presentation, 5 minutes for questions, 5-minute break between sessions. If you're wanting to duck away to another one, that's good. There's not a lot of us, so if you feel you need to duck away earlier or later. Jeremy is our first speaker with Martin. Now, Jeremy, he is a man of incredible talent, and he could probably talk to us for 3 or 4 hours. He's not going to, because once we get to 20 minutes, I'm going to come and make sure he stops. But anyway, so Jeremy and Martin, Jeremy's company X, and some of the stuff they've done with NZTA and others is just quite amazing, really. If I think back to where we were 20 years ago to where we are now in terms of our analytics and graphics and things like this, it's just phenomenal. We tend to forget just how good we are with some of this stuff, and Jeremy's been a big part of that. Martin doesn't look like he's been around for 45 years, looks a lot younger than that, but anyway, you know, he's got a lot of experience, and I'm looking forward to hearing from that too. And they are talking, I like their title, Beyond the Tube. So it's got that London vibe, hasn't it? And Modernising Traffic Count Estimation for Smarter Transport Decisions. So Jeremy and Martin, thank you very much.
Every road tells a story, but when we misread movement, the consequences can be tragic.
In 2005, as Hurricane Rita closed in on Texas, millions evacuated. The network didn't just slow down, it locked up. People sat for hours, then days, stranded in traffic, running out of fuel, water, time, and options. Now, bring that closer to home. In New Zealand, traffic count decisions shape how we plan renewals, manage safety, respond to disruption, and protect access to critical infrastructure, including the fuel routes communities depend on. Because if you only measure snapshots, you miss the network. And better transport decisions start with better estimation.
You liked it so much you wanted it again, right?
That is the feature of the presentation. Yeah, good morning everybody. I'm Martin Gould from Hamilton City Council. I'm the Transport Activity Manager there. And I'm here this morning to talk to you about our journey for improving our understanding of traffic count estimates across the network. By way of background information, in 24-25 there was 881 million kilometres travelled on our local road network. That's an equivalent to 1,146 return trips to the moon. And I would like to point out that our crash record is probably better than NASA on that basis. And if you add the traffic that moves on the state highways, it's 1.3 billion kilometres every year, nearly 3% of national travel, just around little old Hamilton. Gives you a bit of idea of the scale. So what it's all about here for transport, we need to start thinking more that it's about the movement of people and materials. That's what we're here for, not looking after the roads, it's providing a road. There's no point having a library with heaps of great books in it if nobody's taken the library books out. So we just need to be clear on how many people are using our network and where they're using it. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you. As Ross just said, Jeremy Hughes, co-founder of Company X. My background in software in the transport sector starts way back in the 90s, working for designing and writing RAM with RAM software. So in that time, we introduced, I designed the data model and wrote the algorithms for pavement structures and surface structures, treatment links, and the treatment link summarise process. So if you've hated any of those, you can come and childhood. And it's really cool to see those structures now beautifully rendered with tools we didn't have back then in the current version of AWM on the web. What we're talking about this morning is specifically the traffic count estimation module within Transport Insights. It's free to use, and we're going to run through how we partner to help Martin with that.
So just a quick fire background for those of you who are not transport asset managers or not involved in transport. So traffic counting would have been a very binary sort of operation in the beginning. Somebody out there with a clipboard, or if they're very upmarket, a counter, back to the office and drawing it up by hand on a graph. I'm sure all of us have perhaps been there at some point. And this was great. We had really accurate data, but it was only accurate at the count site, and it was quite difficult to estimate away from there. It was gut feel or some pen and paper maths. Things moved on, and we had the tube counters arrive, and so all of a sudden we can get a 7-day count overnight, and we've got a really good 7-day average of the traffic there, good idea of what's happening, and we all love a spreadsheet, right? There's an easy way to put the data together, make a nice chart, and from that we can start putting together some estimates away from the count sites. Some of those were more successful than others, proprietary or in-house, but never fear, the next evolution is here. So what we've got here is the traffic count estimation module. It's now available on the REDGE worksite, the Road Efficiency Group, and this tool sourced from Company X, sorry I've lost my place there. So Hamilton City decided to adopt using this tool very early on, and we've sourced some help from Company X and Auxilium to help us set this up and to help us make sure we're doing everything correctly. What was our objective? We're looking to achieve some defendable estimates and be really confident that we've got good answers on our network, not just at count sites. And so what are we starting from? What have we got? You can see on screen there, the picture on the left is the location of our tube count sites. There's not very many scattered right across a big city to try and capture 800 million kilometres of traffic. And just on the right, we're lucky enough to have some permanent count sites. Those are the green dots, and you can see the sort of information we're getting out of that. So we've got some really, really good information, but not many places. It's time to go on a bit of a hunt. So we've got other sources of data. We have here the SCAT sites. Try with the pointer that can't get up. So at our intersections where there's traffic lights, they're all managed by a SCAT system, and that records a great deal of information 24/7, passing through and left turning, although that's numbers. It's not giving us a classification looking for trucks. But we also have camera mounted equipment, both mobile and on the traffic lights, and that's license plate recognition equipment. So that's reading the license plate, going off the database, and tells us, is it a car, a motorbike, or a great big heavy truck? Don't panic, it's not recording who's driving through or how many people are in the car, it's just recording the vehicle type. So now that's another data source for us, which is fantastic. So where have we landed? We looked at the SCAT sites in the red dots. The blue dots are the license plate recognition. There's still some gaps, so we've ended up on the right, but here with the help of Company X, we've put in a whole bunch more tube count sites. We're now confident that we can collect data that's really representative right across our city. We also decided to do a traffic counting strategy. I know it's called a blueprint up there, but we won't go into that story. But we've recorded our journey there and put down in paper what our process really is and who's responsible for running that process forward, and put some dates on there to make sure it's reviewed. As part of looking into our traffic count history, we really discovered that it had become disjointed. things we assumed were happening perhaps weren't happening, and quality assurance was not quite to the standard we thought it was, unfortunately. So we've recorded a process, and we're moving on with that. So who's using all this information? Obviously, the road asset managers, all those of us who love a spreadsheet, we're looking at how many vehicles and how many heavy vehicles, and we're using that to estimate the remaining life of our network. But internally, we've also got our safety engineers, our transport planners, and our transport operation centre. So those are the people that manage the traffic lights. If a traffic light goes down or we have a crash, we know which roads we can pull people down without affecting their capacity too much. There's external as well, the government and funding partners. NZTA, bless them, is Andrew here today? No. We like to keep an eye on what we're doing and take a lot of reporting out of the back of Asset Work Manager. The Department of Internal Affairs use this information for some KPI reporting, and the Ministry of Transport are also looking at numbers. So there's quite a few people using it. There's the wider network users, climate scientists looking for carbon emissions, we've got developers, business, real estate agents looking for sites that are ideal to set up a dairy with lots of vehicle going past, or a residential development not so busy. So all of this enables safer decisions, better modelling, and more predictable investment. I'm starting to sound like Nicola Willis. Funny, I've lost the weight. So what are the lessons we learned? Well, there's a few up there, but probably the biggest one was that this isn't as difficult as I thought. In a complex gridded network, I really didn't know where to start with traffic estimating. But using the process that's in the TCE, the Traffic Count Estimation module, you're breaking it down into 15 road groups. When you start mapping just those road groups one at a time, it's quite a lot easier. Makes quite a lot more sense. And you look at the data you've got, look at your gaps. So you map it out, and it's not that frightening. Takes a bit of work, but it's not that frightening. In fact, we found that we could get better data with a few count sites. We were overcounting some things, just historic. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Martin. So now I'm just going to, having set up the traffic counts so that we can bring those into the traffic count estimation tool and use that tool to then create estimates right across the network and get truth for estimates across Hamilton City Council. So the process in Transport Insights, you do an import. So just a perfectly normal import like you would do at the end of the year for the snapshot. That actually brings across all of the traffic data that we need. And then I'm going to show you the process, 5-step process you run through to get good estimates. I will spend some time running through the traffic group order where you get to validate that will make sense and make sure it's correct. And then the final step, unload your traffic count estimate results and bring those back into AWM. Okay. So, as I mentioned, it all starts with a perfectly normal Transport Insights import from AWM. Having done that, you'll see the most recent import here in your traffic count estimation screen. So, if you click on View Results there, it will take you into the estimation process. And really, we've set this up so you can just run through the 5 steps at the top here, and having done that, you will have created reliable traffic estimates. The first step is just check your traffic counts, and then add missing AADT estimates. The system operates by applying growth. So it uses the counts to work out the growth and apply that across the traffic groups. The one thing you need for growth is a starting position. So this is where you enter, make sure that you've got a figure for all of your carriageways. You can then assign traffic groups. That all comes across from AWM, so there may not be much to do there. Then calculate your estimates and you've got your results. So basically run through the top and it'll work fine. Here is the bit that I'm going to spend some time, traffic group order. So having got your results, you really need to dive into, are they sensible? Are they correct? Do we need to make any adjustments? So I'm going to spend most of my time in that section. In the slides that I give to Apopo, I will have screens of those 5 steps that get you to that point. Okay, when you get to, you've got your estimates calculated, and then use the traffic group order to validate it all makes sense. Now, at the top here, this is the growth rate we've calculated based on the counts for this traffic group, urban, residential, high B. So if we do nothing, traffic count estimates are going to imply a 30% growth rate across all of the residential high B traffic groups. Now, we didn't think that was realistic, and so dived into the reason why. And at the very top here, you'll see Peacock's Road has a growth rate of 142%. Martin, what's going on there? And if we look at the detail of the traffic counts here, you'll see in 2025, we had a traffic count which represents a 278% growth. And like, well, why is that? That's not making sense. So we had a look, and it was that year that they finished the Peka Bridge in Hamilton going across to Peacock's Road, and that represents a lot of construction traffic as they were finishing that bridge. So obviously we don't want that applied across the rest of the Hamilton network. That's easily handled. So here's where the bridge was, and these are the carriageways of Peacock's Road that were affected. So that's easily handled. We go back to assign traffic groups. Basically we want to move that carriageway out of that traffic group to bring the estimates to a more reasonable figure. And so you'll see here we've selected that carriageway, and we're going to move it to a other special zone C traffic group, so move it out of one that we're using to estimate traffic. And having done that, we recalculate the estimates, and then this is what it looks like. So our residential high B has now dropped to 5.2% growth rate, which seems reasonable, and so that's that one fixed. There's 15 traffic groups in total, so moving on to the next one. Urban residential medium B has an 11.3% growth rate, and that seems a little high to Martin. So we looked at the carriageways. Pardoa Boulevard has a very typical problem in this. We have small counts here and much bigger counts. This is COVID, and so what we want to do there is just turn those estimates off. So we turn those off, and you'll see now we have a growth rate for that carriageway 1.1%, which is much more reasonable. So what I'm showing you is you can get into the traffic group audit and fix those up very quickly. When you're done, you do the export, and I just want to point out, the download changelog. You might want to download it so you can talk through the adjustments you've made with auditors. Everything you've changed and adjusted is in there. Over to you, Martin.
I thought I was going to thought I was going to get through without mentioning the auditor word. who are very helpful in identifying areas for improvement. So we're running a little short on time, so the lessons learned are probably reasonably obvious. The biggest one is don't assume your current QA process is correct and is performing what it really needs to do for you. It's a case of garbage in, garbage out. So if you spend the time getting your data right, it's going to come out right at the other end. And it's very tunable. It's really tunable as long as you know a bit about your network and you can spot the outliers and why. So you need the human element for that. And very quickly, some opportunities are coming up that not everybody will be aware of. And we've really got to thank John Kinghorn and his team at the Hamilton City Council data team. There's all sorts of stuff coming up. We've got a weight and motion equipment. You bore a little hole under the ground and have some kind of a fibre optic cable that actually measures the weight of the vehicles going over. So it's not just based on the weight capacity or potential of the vehicle, it's the actual weight. So that's quite a game changer. There's counts done by crowdsourced data like Bluetooth, TomTom and connected cars. Again, it's not recording personal information, but we record all sorts of other sources of information. And an ever expanding range of license plate recognition kit. And of course AI. So this is another one of those places that's expanding quite quickly after a long period of tubes is enough. It isn't anymore. And in conclusion, I think we're just about out of time. So come along and visit Jeremy at booth 18 at the end. He's got a little challenge for the putt challenge. Come and see us and have a yarn. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
So we've got time probably for a couple of questions. I really like the transparency of that and just the ability to step right through it. That's brilliant, guys. So any questions? One right down the back there.
Obviously, you've looked at basically the counts that you're actually currently doing, how you upload it. But with audits come back to us. And the question is how many actual counts do we need to do to make the estimations valid?
And that's where we got the team from Exilium to partner with us and City Council, knowing that you've got 15 traffic groups that you have to validate and count for. That's where they were able to drop the counts in some cases because they were getting too many counts for a traffic group, and then make sure that the other traffic groups are well represented in your counting.
Is there an actual number?
Not an engineer, but if you come to this stand, or Eric might want to answer it, they'll be there for how they set that up.
That's a great answer, Jeremy. And one last one over here. So.
So I'm Anna Percy. I'm not with Auckland Transport anymore, so maybe the problems I'm talking about have been fixed, but the carriageway database was not actually built for the purposes of traffic counting. And there's quite a bit of flexibility in there, which seems to have been used over the years to make our busiest roads particularly quirky in terms of being able to really say this traffic count applies to these lanes at this times. Did you have more problems with your busy roads than with your quiet roads?
No, I think we're probably not as complex as Auckland, thank goodness. And we had quite stable sorts of counts, other than for events a la COVID. But like Auckland, we've got new roads being built, new bridges being built, and the changes were enormous step changes. Areas being opened up, the expressway, Wairere Drive. So we were able to explain that to that level. So Auckland's just a bit special, I guess, at times.
Thank you very much. I think if any more questions, because there's a lot of questions come out of this presentation, do go and see Jeremy and team at the stand. Let's just thank them again for the presentation. Right, we've got a 5-minute break before our next speaker, and that gives you time to move if you need to from now. Thank you.